Oh, people are already in the comments.
Excellent. I just had a very victorious moment. I matched the paint on Tidmouth Sheds that I mixed a long time ago, so that's very satisfying.
All right. Okay. I think we're live now. I should probably check through my phone so I don't get a massive echo.
Very true. Very true. All right. This is the big question of which brush do I use to do what. That's the paintbrush.
Here we are. Okay. Everything is going according to plan. Oh, I guess I forgot to pop out the chat on YouTube, so I gotta quick go do that.
And I need another brush, which is a slightly less live stream related problem, but it's still important.
Okay. I accidentally X'd out the tab. I X'd out the wrong tabs. So I accidentally left my own stream for a moment. He didn't. He didn't stop making Thomas content.
All right, I'm back, and I've got 2 new brushes for my painting experience.
Got a question in the chat here for you, Lemmy. Someone thinks you've stopped making Thomas content.
I mean, practically I have, because I haven't really released anything, but I haven't stopped trying to make Thomas content. There's a big difference there. You know, like, I think this is true of a lot of people. I can only speak for myself, but it's like, it's not everybody decides to just stop releasing videos. Like, they're like, I must make a big life change and I will no longer release stuff. A lot of the time it's just for whatever reason, like everybody has projects in the back of their mind, but whether they're constantly coming out is a different story. Like, it may be that you've been working on something that keeps getting pushed back. And that's kind of my position, where like I keep trying to release stuff, but then I keep jumping to new projects, or I get bored with the old one, or I can't figure out how to do it. But I've always had stuff in the works. Like, I've never stopped working on anything. You know, I've always been working on something ever since my series last released. Let's just appreciate all the different paint swatches on here as I slowly try to figure out which one matched.
Oh, and Wooden Railway, Edward, there will be trains today. We're just starting up. You know, don't worry. This is the prelude. This is the prelude to trains. Though the sacrifice is that we can't watch Lemmy model make while while playing trains because
Well,
I go
that
full
is
speed.
okay
But
because
yeah,
this is to entertain me, and also
that
so I
is
can get some work done.
also true. I guess since you said it, because who would I be to say that that's not true? If this was a Lemmy modeling stream, this would be on Lemmy's channel.
True, true. Yeah, one of these days we really do need to like live stream us doing a trains race or something. That would be really cool.
Now, let's see. I'll start screen sharing a while. Do. Okay. Is this okay? All right. Okay.
There we are. The trains
All
that
right.
nobody came for.
Yes. All right. Now there's two things I thought about doing today. Now, last Monday, I kind of advertised the idea of setting up operations in some of these more quote unquote official routes. But also, I'm wondering about working on doing some operations in some foreign countries.
Interesting. Going on a big world, big adventure.
Yes, except with in good taste. You know what? Screw it. I know I said the possibility of working on operations today, but honestly, I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling driving some trains in Germany for whatever reason. Typically, I'm not too keen on the foreign routes, but I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it today. So
when I got trains 2012, I think it was, there was only one route that worked for me with multiplayer, and it was like I don't even know what country it was in. It was like had some strange name, and it was halfway across the world, and I didn't recognize any of the engines. But that was like the only one that worked for whatever reason. So that was pretty interesting.
Oh, so Wooden Railway, Edward. I guess you must have missed that part. Is I was jumping back and forth between finishing all the pre-made sessions and alternating between pre-made sessions and working on my own operating sessions. So I guess it's just going to be, depends on what I feel that day. Today I feel like working on more of the pre-made sessions. So we're going on to the Ballen route, whatever it is, in Germany. So, dispatcher, welcome aboard. We are ready to go. Your job is to bring cars to Stockholm. There's a lot of traffic on the rails, so you might run into red signals. We'll do our best to give you right of way and get you there on time. Please note that you have a very special delivery to handle, a tram which needs to be repaired in Stockholm.
Interesting.
All right.
So an engine's health is on your shoulders.
Ah, now I see it. Because I just saw like flatbeds full of cars, but the tram is here at the back.
Interesting. I wonder how aware the the producers of trains are, like the developers of all the Thomas content? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that buy.
I
trains
don't think
Thomas.
they're very aware at all, because apparently they don't even produce the routes or anything. They just produce the software that people build the routes and the content in.
Oh, really? So it's like literally just.
It's all community content.
Oh,
It's just
it's almost
which of
like,
it is, which of it has the stamp of approval from NV3.
huh, interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's like all. It's kind of like Roblox's business model. It's like just kind of relying on people to make the iterations of their content, and all they do is build a gaming engine.
All right. I gotta turn down the train sound. Yes, Lemmy has heard a lot about my ideas for Sodor that I've talked about in streams. Because before I talk about them in streams, I talk about them with him.
Yeah, very true. Yes, and it's very much the same in reverse too, except I don't share Dustin's courage to reveal my ideas so publicly.
Yeah. Yeah, I've obviously had many very interesting ideas for Sodor. I feel like I had a very interesting idea for Sodor just the other day, and now I can't think of it. I guess just the other day would have been yesterday. I guess I never even. We talked yesterday, and I didn't even think. I don't know. Maybe I can't. My brain is just completely blanking.
I know that your side of the conversation yesterday was not so much Thomas as it was something else. So, I think.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I was digging into multiverse shenanigans.
Yes, indeed.
Gosh. Oh, I know what. I don't think this was what I was thinking about, but this was something I was thinking about. Was just words escape me. I can think of it now, but I can't say it.
Well, that's progress. That's progress.
So have you seen the Turtles episode yet? Pilgrimage to Doncaster.
I should hope so. I wrote it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes, I did. I saw it earlier today.
All right. I feel so embarrassed now.
You shouldn't. It was only tacked on at the very end. I was wondering how many people saw that bit of the credits. Like, my name's in there, but it's not like it's at the beginning, and it's not advertised that way. But it's funny because I wonder how many people realize that that's a Lemmy story.
Well, that's cool then. So, how inspired from real life is the boilers overpowering?
It's not very. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean the idea of like an engine having a predetermined lifespan based on kind of the wear that it puts itself through is kind of an idea that's inspired by kind of the whole debate in railway preservation between like, do we rebuild an engine, or does that not count, or you've heard me talk about that before.
Yeah.
But the whole thing of Gresley's engines running themselves into the ground with their boilers, like, it's not. I mean, I don't know how true it is. I really was just looking for a reason to give Gordon and Spencer a reason to look at their own mortality and have to go on a journey together as cousins. But it isn't too grounded, I'll be honest. That's me having fun.
Okay. All right. Because I was wondering, just because that would almost work pretty well in like the whole like 2011 Gordon getting replaced.
Yeah, I mean that's really what the episode's about. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
is
it's never like it's never overtly stated in there that like
right,
that's what the era is, but like I was always when I was writing it I was thinking this is like 2006, 2007,
right.
2003, early 2000s is when this is happening, and so a few years later you're going to get Pip and Emma. Was kind of the whole notion, but yeah,
Yeah, because I know the Railway series says it's, well, maybe not even the Railway series, but wherever they say it, it's because of the changeover at Faro. But
yeah.
if it's something more than that, that makes it a bit more interesting.
Yeah, it's like because it's not quite as dramatic if you do it that way. It's just like, okay, well, Gordon, there's nothing wrong with his speed or strength. It's just the fact that he's a steam engine, and so like he's not connected to his train all the time. He doesn't. It's interesting that like you look at Pip and Emma versus Gordon. Pip and Emma are kind of like they're like these go-getters who like never eat or sleep. They're just always on the job, right? Because they're always attached to their coaches. Whereas Gordon is very dedicated, but he still eats and sleeps, and that's the difference, right? And
Right.
they're almost Pip and Emma, of course, are kind-hearted engines and they have personalities, but in a way, they're also more robotic than Gordon is. And so
Right.
he's still got that kind of those. I don't want to say human flaws, but those flaws that are that are innate in a steam engine. So that's definitely
Those mortal flaws.
yeah, but like I wanted to also go beyond that because I thought it'd be a lot more dramatic if there's a bit more to it. Like it's not just
Yeah.
that Gordon is too is not efficient enough. It's like he's really wearing out as well. So that's something that I more or less tacked on, but it was very much inspired by, and this was kind of my take of like, okay, if I can write the 2011 changeover into Turtles' series, how do I want to do it? And I got away with it. He actually put it in. So, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I guess the whole like implied death of Gordon kind of masked the whole like this feels like a Lemmy story, and
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, who does Gordon deaths better than Turtles?
Yeah, that's true, but it's not a Gordon death, of course. That's the thing. Everyone's freaking out, like, oh my god, Gordon.
I took the implication that like he's not dying, he's just getting weaker.
Yeah, like he's going off the express, right? It's the same thing Christopher showed everybody. It's just not done in 2 sentences. And that was kind of my intention. Because of course Gordon's not going to stay on the express forever. He's at some point he's got to have to be taken off. That's always the way that I've seen it, and I know the way we've talked about it. And so I was just like my what I was trying to do is just think of, okay, if I want to show that, what does it look like? And especially in this series, what does it look like? It's funny, when I wrote the story, Turtles was like, whoa, this is so dark. And I was like, well, I don't really think so. I mean, like people die, engines grow old, like that's part of life, right? Like I didn't think it was all that groundbreaking. But I guess it's dark for any of the main characters to have like a fundamental change like that, but it's interesting. I think when most people read, like, say, the last book of the Railway series, they
don't Wooden Railway Edward.
What did he say?
He said, well, the second one. He said, spoilers, I should have probably gotten caught up on Turtles Urdles. Whoops. Yeah, I probably should have, waited beyond, a few hours. So I'm a bit at fault too. But at the same time, I don't expect viewers.
Well, also in part, I feel like it's if something big has just come out and you're expecting like and you're planning to watch it, you should probably be very careful about going anywhere in the community. Like I remember, like
there also should be a realm of acceptability of like okay, we'll avoid spoilering people for so long.
Yeah,
At
no, that's
least without a spoiler warning. But I guess when I immediately came up and said like, so the new episode of Turtles Turtles, I guess that could count as a spoiler warning.
yeah. Well, at any rate, there's more to it than that. So,
But
certainly.
yeah, but that's then people jump in the middle of the conversation. It's like immediate immediate spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to line up
So,
this decal on the front of Tidmus Sheds, and it is a tricky beast.
but I mean, hey, we all knew Gordon retired from the Express in 2011.
I think a lot of people did. I'm not sure if everybody does, but
Mattel sure doesn't.
but
They've never heard of a Pip and Emma.
but yeah. So that was I wrote that story for him a long time ago. It's cool to see it finally come to light. But yeah. Anyhow, so Gordon, Gordon.
Dirty and grimy Gordon was the peak of that episode, model wise. Just wow.
Yeah.
Wooden Railway Edward asks, or not asks, he just posted, Batman died in Endgame.
True. My God.
You silly goose. Batman wasn't in Endgame. He died in Infinity War.
My God. Yeah, so how's that tram rescue going?
I mean, it's going pretty good. That's only like 2 out of like the 7 flatbeds that I'm dealing with. But it's.
Well, they say they made a pretty big deal about the tram, so I think that's what we're all really here for.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe. I mean, the cars aren't our property. Aren't the railway's property? Like if these get damaged or something, that's really bad because that's
if Germany owns all of Britain's rolling stock, then does Britain own all of Germany's rolling stock? That's a real question.
well, Wooden Railway Edward, I can't go 1,000 mph because 1, right now it's in kph mode, and 2, as soon as I speed too dramatically, it shuts everything off because operating sessions are boring sometimes and they don't let us have fun.
Shuts everything off. My God.
Just shuts the session down. Like, nope, you have lost the game. Game over.
It's just so interesting to me
Despite the fact that it's probably realistic that some people actually speed on the railway.
You're like the only person, Dustin, I'm aware of that actually plays trains. Like, that actually plays it. Because I remember when I first got like the game, like that was the first thing I did is like I played it. That was back in like 2006 or something, right? I like when I first got the game. I think it was Trains 2006, but I got it in like 2008 or 9. But so I played the game, and they had the built-in sessions and stuff, and those were cool. But almost immediately after like the first day or two, I stopped playing the built-in stuff, and then I started everything I did from then on was in Surveyor, where I put down my own track and engines. And I had different back then. Like I didn't have any of the downloadable content. I didn't even have the MST Noodle stuff yet. And so I'd go in and I'd like, I'd use like the Flying Scotsman for Henry and like Gordon, and I would use like this little dark blue like engine that's from Belgium or something. I'd use that for Donald and Douglas. It was a tender engine, and I'd use like I don't even know what I mean. Spencer was easy because Mallard was in there. But like it wasn't like I had like just rough allegories for every character, and some of them were really rough. But then once I got the Thomas models, that was like a dream. That was so cool.
Dang. Someone existing before MST Noodle content. I mean, I guess I existed before MST Noodle content, but I wasn't like playing trains before MST Noodle content.
Yeah. I think I was playing it a little bit after, but I wasn't aware of the content until later. Like, I think he started in like 2004 or 5 or 6, around there. And I got the game in like 2008. So I think his stuff had been around a while, but it took me a while to find it. I actually didn't find it. My dad found it. He went looking for Thomas content, and this did, and like that was just so cool. And I got all that stuff. And now it's just this huge thing. Trains is like, it's possibly the most used, probably is the most used medium for storytelling and for anything really. In
this car is sitting here waiting at a crossing. It's the wrong direction. It's what?
I'm more focused on, is that even a German car?
I mean, does it have to be?
I guess not. No, that's weird. I don't like that cars, because trains, up until a certain era at least, locomotives reflect what country they're from. They're built there. Cars aren't like that. Like, as a fan of like the Cars, the Disney Pixar Cars stuff, it's just like a real pain that like, how do you determine what accent a car has? How do you determine what American cars look like when like most of them are like Japanese or like German or something? Like there's no sense of nationality.
Or according to most Republicans, Chinese. Or according to most Republicans, Chinese.
Like, how do you everyone in the Cars universe in America, so many of those cars sound American, but most of them aren't built in America. So how does that work? You would think it's just weird. The whole thing is weird. It doesn't work, but I like it, but it doesn't work. It's baffling.
I guess it would work the same way as a child who is born out of the country, but like immediately moves to America.
That's true, except for the fact that I think the majority of people in America are still born in America. And I think the majority of cars in America are not American cars. So I think like that's where it doesn't really add up.
Oh yeah, but
the Cars universe
it's Cars. It's not Thomas and Friends. It's not trying to be allegorical.
But it's in a lot of ways it's even closer, because like with Thomas, like if Cars was like Thomas, it'd be a lot simpler. It's like, oh, okay, well, just all the German cars would have German accents and all the Japanese cars would have Japanese accents, and that would just make sense. But in the Cars universe, they're all supposed to they're not supposed to graft onto the real world cars. They're supposed to graft onto the real world humans, which makes it so much messier. In Thomas, it's simple. It's just who is the Flying Scotsman in the real world? The Flying Scotsman. It's like very simple. It's very straightforward. But it's like,
right.
Who is Elvis in the Cars universe? Oh, he's a very specific type of car built in Texas, ? Or Hawaii or wherever Elvis was born, and then he died in the 70s. And it's like cars don't work the same way humans do. So it's like very convoluted. It gets very confusing very quickly.
Us and trying to understand franchises that were never really meant to be understood.
Yeah, really. That's us.
We're really just made to sell toys.
Yes, indeed.
You with cars, me with Transformers.
Yes, indeed. But then Transformers also tries to make sense of itself. At least it tries to do that at a point. Cars doesn't. Just sits there and just what you see is what you get.
I don't know if it does though. I think sometimes it tries to pretend it's making sense of itself. But it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's that effort though. The fact that it would ever make commentary on older iterations, and Cars has one iteration, and it's not going to explain most things to you.
You spin me right around, baby, right around, like a record, baby, right around, right around. But yeah. So, I guess fun is happening now.
That's good. It is very good. All right, take two. I'm going to try to put this decal on front of Tidmouth Sheds. I really want to get it in the right position, because if I don't, then all people are going to cry. That's my declaration. That's how everybody.
All people on Earth are going to cry.
Yeah.
Because Tidmouth Sheds is wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Even the guy who insulted the Thomas fandom, Chris McFeely.
Even him. Yeah, especially him. He's gonna cry the most, I'm afraid. I love that that's just what you reduce him to, just the guy who insulted the Thomas fandom.
I actually unsubscribed from his channel today. Like, I kind of stopped watching his videos. Like, I didn't. It's not even that it was like, oh, I don't like you because you insulted my fandom sort of thing. It was just
affects your opinion of him. Like, you're not sure if you want to listen to what he has to say anymore, if he could be that wrong about something.
It wasn't even that though, because all of his videos are basically just restating the same things that come from the wiki in a more digestible manner. But I kind of got bored of it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, we're going through the same shtick again, I guess. And I wonder if his comments towards the Thomas fandom affected that subconsciously. But consciously, it was not a choice to be like, oh, I'm going to stop watching his videos because I don't like him now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. That's like, because I was going to say that reminds me, I mean, it's different because, it's partly just because of his content, or mostly or all. But, this reminds me of when I used to watch this guy called Phantom Strider all the time, which, it's not like he followed something that was like a big interest of mine. It's not like the Transformers thing. But he was just a general channel that, did commentary on stuff, on like cartoons and stuff. And, he would like rank cartoon series and do top 10 best and top 10 worst. And and one day he did like a top 5 worst British kids shows, and like Tugs was like number 4 on the list. And I was like, what? Really? Like, and this is the worst part. The guy had a pretty big channel, right? So there's probably more people who have seen his video than there are in the Tugs community by far. So a lot of people's exposure to Tugs, because of him, was it as this kind of bad kids show where you can't understand the characters, and like it's stupid, and like he said like a bunch of weird stuff about the show, right? And he's entitled to his opinion, but he probably damaged the reputation of Tugs for a lot of people.
I feel like sometimes there's a difference between having an opinion and just saying wrong things.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that after that video, I kind of felt like he was opportunistic, where he was kind of like just looking for things to hate on. Because how can you look at Tugs, and he kept calling this is awful. He kept calling the live action. He kept calling it animation or claymation or something. And it's like, bullshit. What do you mean claymation? What do you mean animation? Like, is that smoke animated? Is it like it really just for lack of a better term.
It amazes
watered
me
down.
how a lot of people call Thomas and Tugs quote unquote stop motion. They're not.
So weird. It's interesting because there isn't a really good word for it. I think what David Mitton would call it was live model animation, which I guess it's kind of a contradiction. Live model animation. It really should just be live models, but nobody knows what that is. So it's kind of interesting. Like you take animation, and then you add a modifier onto it that gets rid of the wrong part. So if you say
Live model action.
live model act
Live action models?
that might be better. But then the problem is it ends with an S. It's not like a show.
Or live action modeling.
Modeling. But then that's more of an activity. Like I feel like animation, the good thing about the term animation is it tells the audience that it's, I mean, this isn't true, and this is kind of damaging to the medium, but it tells the audience that it's for kids. And it tells the audience that it is probably slightly cartoony characters that don't look realistic. And what it also tells the audience...
the tram rescue.
Ah, very good. Bravo! Bravo. Tram trouble averted. But it also, the third thing that it tells those who hear the term, and this is not a good thing, is that it tells them that it is a series of frames that have been photographed individually that are then run together in post, which is not what Tugs and Thomas are. They're, filmed live. And so, that's, I feel like when you say live model animation, it tells, it gives you all that good stuff, but then it says, okay, but it's live, so it's not, frame by frame, and it's models, so it's not drawn. And if you do that, and it's like live model animation, like, okay, it's kind of a weird calculation. It's like, instead of saying 4, you say like 9 minus 5. It's like, yeah, you're not wrong, but why didn't you just say 4? Well, because when you say 4, no one knows what you're talking about. Oh, okay. Like, it's just weird. We don't even know what to call like our I want to say our medium. I guess our medium, yeah. I mean, most of our medium. Live model animation.
I just want someone to like revive the railway. Well, I kind of wish we could see a revival of the railway series. Just
that would be really cool. I think like it's not that hard to do is the thing. It's actually pretty like feasible to, because I mean you just need good illustrations. Like I've wanted to do something like that for a long time, because I could do some really good railway series reminiscent illustrations. And that would be, and a lot of people have done that before. They usually don't get past the first few, but it is neat to see.
Yeah. I mean, of course, there's been SIF, and they've had their extended railway series.
Yeah.
Which
there's been a lot of attempts.
Sorry, what?
Like, there's been a lot of attempts like that, and you could say a lot of those are successes. But it would be cool if we just had something that's just like, something that everybody universally agreed was kind of the new version of this thing. Like what I'm about to say, I don't fully agree with. But it's kind of like how a lot of people view like Carson's Trains videos as like kind of the new classic series, right? It's like, I don't really think we can make a new classic series, and I think, it's, I don't like, I don't like the idea of bestowing like that much significance upon any one person's work. However, a lot of people do feel that way, so I'm just kind of using it to describe the phenomenon of people feeling that way about his work. And I think that like a lot of people do kind of view it that way, as like this is kind of the new Thomas, which is cool. And so it'd be interesting to have something like that for the railway series. Like a lot of people have made their own railway series books or drawings or stories or whatever, but like we haven't really gotten one that everybody universally looks at and is like, okay, that's the closest thing we've got to it. So it would be neat to see that.
Yeah. Honestly, I just hope at some point Mattel just finally sells Thomas or lets it fall into public domain. I don't care which. It would be
The
nice
equipment
if it
would
would
be
at
so
least.
great.
It would be nice if it at least went to if at least the toy rights went to someone that they could like make decent toys.
I honestly, at this point, I'm quite convinced. This is coming from somebody who's just watched 7.5 seasons straight of My Little Pony. I think that Hasbro knows what they're doing, and I think that they should be in charge of Thomas. If I had to pick somebody to get the brand, I feel like it would be them. But then again, maybe people have all these complaints about Hasbro. Like, I bet if you asked like a My Little Pony fan, they'd be like, "Oh my God, no, don't! It's awful. They've done a terrible thing to the show, and they're rebooting it." Blah blah. Like, okay, but like Gordon is Thomas's dad, though. We're kind of in like we're in very deep shit. Okay, there's no there's no escaping this.
Right now, we are in neck deep shit. At least with Hasbro, we might only be in knee deep shit.
Yeah, that would be a dream. Imagine that, only knee deep. That would just be perfect. That'd be like that'd be a holiday for us. So please, that's the thing. It would be nice if it. I just want something fresh, but not in this way. Fresh in the direction where it's still very much like the whole point of the show is it's about trains, right? Something that appeals to rail fans. I don't care if it feels like traditional Thomas, but make it feel like something that rail fans will like. And if you do that, then automatically that's going to make Thomas older, just which I think is a pretty big standard for me. I just want him to not be a little baby. And that includes being a little baby in The Adventure Begins, too, for that matter. I want him to be, like, in his 20s. I don't want him to be 10.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But then beyond that, I just think Thomas, it's not that it needs to be targeted at an older audience. It's that I think trains are big, powerful giants, And it's almost the same way that kids see adults, So, like, I feel like trains shouldn't be kids because they're not small and cute. And kids don't think that trains are small and cute. They think they're these big, powerful, exciting things that can do anything. It's like your dad lifting you up on your shoulders. That's the same thing as, a big, powerful steam engine pulling you and your family across the country. They're the same thing. And so I think that the engines should not act like children. Like, it doesn't fit what they are, and it doesn't fit what they really, what's appealing about trains in the first place.
Yeah.
But we've said the same thing a million different ways, a million different times. Welcome to Therapy Corner with Lemmy and Dustin, where we discuss the ramifications of the show and its changes, just to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, if it was, something I haven't mentioned. I didn't mention to this you yesterday.
Yes.
I bought a 3D printer the other day. It's on its way.
That's nuts.
I might start printing 3D faces for my engines.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
So that way I can actually have several expressions, which is weird because I never really cared much for several expressions. And now all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, I can print several expressions now.
Well, you'll see if that desire sticks around or not. I know that oftentimes it goes back to Wooden Railway for you, and Wooden Railway doesn't have that. So, like, you don't necessarily... I could see you going either way, really. It'll be interesting to see if that's something that you continue to be excited for. But I know that would be really cool from my perspective, to have the engines change expression. I mean, that's a pretty big narrative tool that I definitely value.
Yeah. I think it has the potential to be neat because I mean it's not like we don't get variants with different expressions.
It's interesting though. Like I know, like say first person I think of is like James, who he uses like a different James for certain shots. He uses a different Edward for certain shots, like and a different Thomas. But like he kind of works with what he has. He's resourceful that way. But I guess for me, my perspective is I don't really want to use something that's limited at all, which is kind of why I build everything from scratch. It's like I kind of just want to, if I would rather blow everything up, take longer, and then start from scratch and have everything at my disposal then use the limited means at my disposal. So like I always, thought, well, it's cool that like there's a Gordon that's shocked that like blew through a station, and there's like there's a shocked Thomas, and there's like a sad Henry and all that. Those are neat, but then they're also very limiting. So all of a sudden it's like, well, so James can be angry, but he can't be sad. Like he can't be scared. He can't be like there's like the limitations of that always outweighed the benefits for me. But I know a lot of people aren't that way at all. And
I know sometimes it's felt like I could still feel the emotion even though I didn't see it.
Yeah.
So
and I agree with that fully. But I think at that point I'd be more likely to just keep the engine happy. That sounds funny. Keep the engine happy. But
that's my thing. Is it feels weird to only have some expressions but not all of them.
Yeah. But the thing is, I say that, but then I watch James's series and I'm not even thinking about it. So
I say that too. That's more of a me thing than a.
Yeah, no, that's the thing.
If you do this, your series is bad. That's more of a like, well, if I was doing it, I wouldn't have done that, but whatever.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I don't want to say my standards are different for other people, but my expectations are different. And like, I'm glad that people don't do it the same way that I would. And I'm like, I like what I see. So like, I'm glad that James handles his series the way that he does. Cause like, it's his series and that's what I come to it for. But like, it's weird how like a lot of the things that you say like, oh, I would do things this way and that way and that way, all of a sudden don't apply with other people because it's like you're not being so critical of yourself anymore. It's like, oh, well, it's fine if he does it, but like if I did it, I couldn't do that. Like, it's just funny the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a sucker for consistency, but I also don't expect other people to, be as anal about things as I am, because I kind of acknowledge that I'm kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe I need to start acknowledging that a bit more as well, because I think it's true. This is only, I want to say it's tangentially related, but it's not related at all. I'll be honest. What's your favorite OC out of all the OCs that have been in the fandom, do you think?
Okay, well, before I answer that, Wooden Railway Edward asks, which Railway series book is your favorite?
Oh, mainline engines.
My immediate go-to is Enterprising Engines, but like it's just kind of my immediate go-to. Like it
makes sense though, because really that is
it's a big finale book, you know.
Like it's really supposed to be your favorite too. Like that's what it's built for. So like that makes a lot of sense.
All right. So favorite fandom OC, not my own OC, but fandom OC.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you don't get to pick your own. Come on.
Ooh, that's interesting. There are so many.
I think immediately I'm going to say, well, I'm going to let you say first. But it's pretty immediate to me who I would pick, but then I'm going to say other ones that aren't so immediate.
I kind of immediately gravitate towards Wild Nor'Wester's Wellsworth and Sudbury engines, just because they look cool. and then that's also I've grown attached to their characters in Victor Tanzig's series. So it's kind of weird because
that's like a double one. That's like I think like, those are interesting because I think that Wild Nor'Wester has
just real quick. Sorry, I'm not doing any Thomas routes in the near future. I kind of did a soft restart with trains. I actually don't have any of them downloaded right now. I still have them all saved in a file, but
wait. You did a soft restart. You don't mean that you like fixed Emily and then it deleted all your trains, right?
No, I don't. I mean, I created a new content reference file and it created fresh files where it only has the built-in trains content.
Oh, lovely, good. Because see, when I do that, when I do anything of the sort with trains, usually it just deletes all my trains. That's usually its go to. That's how it likes to treat me.
Yeah.
But
So anyway, as you were saying, Lenny.
So yeah. So with the Wellsworth and Suttery engines, I think Wild Nor'Wester has done the community a great service in bringing to the community's attention the fact that the Wellsworth and Suttery engines are a thing. Because he's made that railway, he's given it a color, he's given it an identity. I'm not usually like so affected by other people's work, and I don't usually incorporate it into my own. And I really didn't with my series, but even then, hands down, the only reason I made my Wellsworth and Suttery engines red, and especially that red, was because of his series. I might not have thought that at the time, but looking back, yeah, of course, there's no. What are the odds that we both choose that color to represent that railway? Like, he chose red. Red is not the only thing. Let me just get this straight. The only thing in people history and railways that they say about the Wellsworth and Suttery engines is that there are 4 of them, and that they are 060s. That's it. That's literally all that they ever said. He broke one of those rules. In fact, I think he broke 2 of those rules. So he broke the only 2 rules, but he still represented Wellsworth and Suttery engines. So that's really cool.
And even then, it's not like one could definitively say, well, why can't there just be a 4th one?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think really what it is, I don't think it's important that there are 060s or that there's 4 of them. I think what's important is that somebody was running the Wellsworth and Suttery Railway, because the Wellsworth and Suttery is one of the 3 major.
The Wellsworth and Suttery Railway actually had engines. That's what's important.
Yeah, no, exactly. And with the Tidmouth, Knapford, and Elsbridge, we have the coffee pots. We have an idea of what they look like, and we've got the Sodor and Mainland, and we definitely know what Neil looks like. But the Wellsworth and Suttery was left out in the cold until Wild Nor'Wester stepped up to the plate. And so I do appreciate him actually, giving the community a reason to care. Was great. I definitely don't envision the Wellsworth and Suttery engines the same way that he does, but I adore the fact that he made them a reality in some form is great. So I think they are very important OCs indeed. I would say, so for my top pick, I would say Alfred. It's a really cliche and obvious pick, but I have to say Alfred. He was the first.
Oh my.
What is
I
that?
might just.
Oh my god. You're gonna get your railway driver's license revoked if you're not careful.
I'm gonna get fired.
I think you'll get your railway driver's license revoked. That's how it works. Trust me. But yeah, I would say Alfred. Because it was just so cool when he first came out. That was in 2009 or something, and it was just a huge deal because that was the first time an engine that actually looked.
They didn't stop the session. They just said, "Hey, you're not allowed to do this. Let me keep going."
Well, you're probably going to get hollered at when you get back to headquarters. So that's definitely a fear.
Okay, sorry, you were saying?
Oh yeah. So basically, with Alfred, he was the first character that I ever saw that was really felt like he could fit right into the show. That was really amazing. He had a new face. He had a new basis, but it was still a very British basis. He just felt so. It helped too that I think, I'm not sure if Scarlowe 123 made. I know all of his models, the ones that were in Sodor Dark Times. When you look at their files, they're all marked with his name on them. So it seems to me that he at least uploaded all of them, if not made all of them. But he definitely made Alfred, and the fact that all the models kind of had the exact same quality about them and all fit together was very inspiring. The fact that Gordon looked just as just as authentic as Alfred did. Now, granted, that's because Gordon was done in a lower res trains format, but he looked amazing for the time. And then Alfred looked just as amazing. So like he fit, he like felt real, right? And that was so cool. And he had a new face, and he just had an amazingly written character, and there were real stakes, and like, big stuff actually happened in Sodor Dark Times. And so he was just such an exciting, thing to witness back then. It really shook things up. And I don't think anything has quite come close to topping him as an OC for me. I think maybe there have been other characters that have come along since then, but I think back then it really shook things up. And I think he laid the groundwork for a lot of OCs to come to prove that an OC doesn't just have to be like a sprite recolor. There's nothing wrong with sprite recolors either. But, you could take an OC and make it real and make it authentic and make it like really a powerful thing that people could actually, treat like a real character. So that was really cool. But, so Alfred, I was obsessed with Alfred when he first came out. But if I don't say Alfred, then probably I want to say Alice from Wild Nor'Wester series. Alice is really cool. She's got like a great basis.
She was one of his first.
Yeah, she was. And I think still one of his best because it's just a beautiful class. The C1s are just gorgeous. And she's in her original colors. And also just the idea that Gordon has a friend from the old days that like kind of understands his weak points and soft spots is like really interesting. Like, because you don't really have anyone like that from the GNR that grounds Gordon. Whenever he does interact with somebody from the GNR, it's like
even his brother, his only brother, is not GNR. He's LNER.
Yeah, and even if somehow Gordon stayed on the LNER a little while and say he arrived later, then that still wouldn't, it still wouldn't be the same because he and Scotsman have kind of a little bit of a rivalry. And, even when they don't, I think they're very much kind of masculine, Gresley, we are the pride of the railway types, right? And so I feel like they don't cry in front of each other. They don't weep in front of each other. They don't share each other's weaknesses. They just, they golf together, right? That's what they do. They're still very close, but they're not the same type of, relationship. Whereas it's interesting because with like Gordon can let down his guard a little bit with Alice because she's not another A1. She's kind of like he doesn't feel like he has to compete with her. And so but at the same time, he still has a lot of respect for her. And she can kind of give him, advice that perhaps he couldn't get from Scotsman or from any other one of his, siblings. And I think that's really powerful. I think that's a type of relationship we've never seen Gordon have with anybody. Usually, like, he gets advice from Edward, right? But that's usually begrudging. He doesn't want to get advice from Edward. It's just that he needs it. And so he'll finally listen when he's literally struggling to get up the top of the hill, right? Whereas with Alice, I feel like that's the only time I've seen someone write stories where Gordon is willing to be vulnerable with somebody by choice, not because he has to. And that's a huge difference, and I think that's really cool. So
I almost wonder how many other GNR OCs there are that have that prestige, like have like kind of ascended to the like we practically consider this an official character now level.
I'm not sure.
I shouldn't really call it that. I'm more it's extended beyond its original creator. Like it's I don't want to put too many OCs above others, but sort of because they're the OCs that people are like, this is my character, please don't use it. And then they're the OCs that are like, yeah, whatever, anyone can use this.
Yeah, and I think partly too, sometimes it's by choice because a creator is generous, but other times it's because their creation was just so successful that they couldn't swim against the tide. Like, I don't think if Scarlowi 123 tried to tell people not to use Alfred, which he might have done, I don't remember, it never would have worked. Like, people loved him too much. There was no way. He couldn't have controlled it. And there's a lot of, and those are the characters I think we're talking about where you literally couldn't stop the public from using them once they're out there. Alfred's one of those for sure. Timothy's another one of those. And I
Yeah.
think like, Timothy, a lot of people bag on Timothy, but I think he's really opened up a lot of creative potential for a lot of people. And even people who say he's cringeworthy, deep down, I think a lot of those people also love him. So it's
I
like,
I don't think I'd necessarily use Timothy as like the ghost engine, but more a tongue-in-cheek reference. Like maybe one of Thomas's brothers would be named Timothy.
right.
Um, I
Yeah.
already
The
one
idea
thing
there,
I've kind of played with is that so I'm not sure if, but I've opened up the possibility of saving two of Thomas's brothers at most. I'm
yeah.
not sure if I'm actually going to do that, but it's possible. And I
Right.
figured like maybe one of them would be named Timothy.
Yeah,
Maybe.
that would be interesting. And then you could make some parallels. And it could be like it could almost be like he's the first one, he's like 100. And then like at some point the like 1 and the 0 on the ends get scratched off, and he's like ended up on Sodor and it's like there's a 0 in the middle, something like that, right? That could be, pretty effective. And he wouldn't have to be a demon train, right? Like I think the key things about Timothy are that he's supposed to be a character from Thomas's distant past that he never thought he'd see again, and that isn't really talked about. And I feel like that could work if it's one of the brothers.
Especially given how secretive Thomas is about his past.
Yeah, like
I
I
mean,
could see that working.
Thomas's greatest fear is one of his brothers showing up.
Yeah, like whether it's and it wouldn't be that he's a demon so much as it would just be that he's
He's one of Thomas's demons.
yeah, exactly. That could actually be like the name of the story, like you could play it off that way, like that type of thing, right?
Demon from the LDSC.
Yeah, like that would actually be pretty effective. Like you could do that. That's pretty good. Yeah, but Timothy has a lot of potential, I think. But all the OCs do, right? I think any OC can be catapulted to true glory if you just know how to use them and if you just don't scoff at them, right? If the moment anyone starts scoffing at any character, they've missed a lot of opportunities and they've screwed themselves. That's how I tend to see things.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will shortly arrive in Hidden Valley. Exit on the left-hand side.
Some of these routes really go over or not the routes, but the sessions really go over the top when they even have like the dispatcher or like the guard or things like actually like talking. Like they don't just have the pop-up. It's like they actually like had a voice actor or something. I don't know what. I don't know how that happened. They got a recording to actually like say the line.
Oh, really? That's trippy to think of for trains. That would kind of be creepy for me if I wasn't expecting that. I'd hear that and be like, oh my god, I thought I was alone.
The first few times I was I kind of had a similar feeling, like what the hell. This is not how this game is supposed to work.
Yeah. Like trains are supposed to be very quiet apart from the trains. Like you're supposed to be alone, and then when you aren't, oh no.
But yeah, a few days ago I was on the Canadian Rocky Mountains route, taking one of the trains on that, and like all of a sudden you hear Canadians over the radio talking to each other, and it's like, wait, what the hell?
Yeah. Love that. Not just you hear people, you hear Canadians. It's very specific. It's like, oh no, Canadians.
Oh no, nice people. Stereotypically nice people.
Oh my god. It's interesting that like
Hi, Reading 3640 Studios. Welcome back. He was hanging out in the last stream.
I see.
We talked a bit.
Loyal viewer. Yes, I recall. What's the number again? Reading what?
Reading 3640 Studios.
Yeah, I've definitely seen him in my streams before. Indeed. Good to see you.
Wait until boarding is complete. No. I'm just gonna pull out now.
Oh my god. Danger on the rails, quite clearly.
Yeah.
What time is it? I have no access to a clock.
It is 9:14.
9:14, so that's 6:14 for me. That's confirmed. Yes.
Yes, that's right. You're 3 hours behind. I slightly forgot about that.
Slightly. You either forget or you don't.
I not temporarily forgot about that. I slightly forgot about that. It was one of those things like, yeah, I knew that, but I wasn't thinking of it when I said that. So like, I slightly forgot about it.
That works. That works. Oh, very good. All right. It's interesting, like, usually I abandon projects and never return to them. So, like, I've got all this Tidmouth stuff that I was working on a few months ago, and now I'm just working on it again. Like, oh, I don't have to start over. Like, it's still here. It doesn't disappear. That's kind of cool. Another interesting question. I feel like we kind of glossed over the Railway Series book question. I've answered that question too many times. Where like I was just immediately like, oh, mainline engines, and just moved along. What's your favorite Christopher book? I guess is an interesting question.
Ooh.
I feel like
maybe Gordon the High-Speed Engine.
I want to say that might actually be my favorite. Like my default answer is James and the Diesel Engines, but I feel like if
I kind of forgot about James and the Diesel Engines.
That one's really great, but also like I really do like Gordon the High-Speed Engine, and I might like it more because I'm really not sure. I mean, I'd have to like kind of read them again. I really haven't read them at all. I've only listened to them, so like. It would be cool to properly.
Yeah, I don't think I've even finished reading all of Christopher's books. I know Sidekick Jason, like he posted a PDF with all of them, and I was like,
he's a hero for doing that. I've got that on my computer. That was just such an act of service.
Why have I all of a sudden come to a stop? Why has my train all of a sudden been shut off?
All of a suddenly come to a stop. That's like a new phrase you just invented. That's like a Dr. Seuss way of putting that. All of a suddenly come to a stop.
Oh, I wonder if I just accidentally pressed S.
That could be. Press S to pay respects. What do you think? Who do you think is the worst visitor to Sodor in all of its history? Like the one who's the worst, the one who shouldn't have visited the most.
Wait. So worst visitor as in least favorite, or worst visitor as in biggest asshole?
Let's say both. Let's start with biggest asshole.
Okay. So there are multiple answers to this one. Multiple potential answers. So let's go through the list, and we'll just do this good old whatever the phrase is.
Process of elimination.
Yeah, process of elimination.
All right, so we've got Diesel. Is he the first visitor technically?
He's definitely the first Diesel
No,
visitor.
he's the second visit because it's technically. So
yeah, because City of Churro came before him in the
And
same
then
book.
before him came Big City Engine. And like the
Was
thing
that
is, like,
before?
technically, there's been thousands of engines like Big City Engine and City
Yeah,
of Churro, but just out of the ones we're aware of.
Yeah. Well, also, City of Churro might have been the first celebrity engine to visit, and
That's
Big
true.
City Engine might have just been the first visitor that we actually pay attention to.
Yeah. So Diesel is bad for sure. He almost got Duck sent away. He caused disharmony on the island.
Big City Engine was just kind of disagreeable.
Yeah, and it's not even fully. Like, I don't know if he necessarily even did anything wrong. He just like defended his beliefs. And Doc
He just stated wrong facts, but at the same time, so were Duck and Gordon. So.
Yeah, so it's like he was just not really a bad guy. Just just started an argument that lasted all night and caused Gordon to
in the
almost open
live
up the
chat,
door.
Redding put Jeremiah Jobin, and Wooden Railway Edward put Teddy Boston.
So Jeremiah, do we know that Jeremiah Jobling doesn't live on Sodor? I always assumed he does. And as for Teddy Boston, that's mean. Who are you, the Reverend W.
Well, he did.
Malone?
He did put in parentheses joke right beneath that. So
Okay, yeah. I wish Audrey had done that the dozens of times he abused his poor friend. But he didn't. Poor guy. Poor Teddy. Like getting splashed, falling through roofs, being the flat
Big City Engine is just stupid. Well, also, so was Gordon and Duck. But Gordon and Duck Gordon at least has the excuse that he was only on the mainland for like a few years.
Yeah, that's true.
Duck, he lived on the mainland for a while.
He was there for like 25 years. He should know better. There really hasn't been a single time where an engine from the L&ER accidentally went to the wrong terminus or something. Like, there's got to be something.
You think he'd at least hear things by just like word of mouth or something, But and Big City Engine, I mean, he lives in the big city. That's his name. Big City Engine.
Yeah.
I assume he lives there.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah. But apparently he's clueless about what actually goes on in his own city. So.
But yeah, so on the qualifiers for biggest asshole, Diesel, then we got Spam Can and Bowler. I think are probably the three biggest qualifiers.
Does Diesel 10 count as a visitor? Because Diesel also visited, but then came back and stayed.
Okay, so are we? Okay, we're talking more than just Railway Series then.
Oh, I'm always talking more than just Railway Series.
Was it ever said in the book where Thomas went to the railway show what gender Mallard was?
I don't think so. It might have been he, but I don't really think it matters. Like I think of Mallard as female just because mainly because of Cactus's series, I think. But also just
also because Flying Scots. Audrey kind of already gender bent Flying Scotsman by the fact that most people refer to Flying Scotsman as she.
Yeah.
And his name is also Flying Scotsman, so maybe it's the public that gender bent Flying Scotsman. So
I tend to view pretty much all engines as genderless until proven something else. Like in my mind, they're all engines are kind of non-binary. They don't really like. It doesn't matter what they are. We kind of have to call them something. So we end up deciding which pronouns to use for a given train, but like ultimately it really doesn't make a difference. You know, Mallard is Mallard, goes fast and goes zoom, and that's all I care about.
It's like, as long as Mallard goes zoom, I'm happy.
Yeah. Mallard doesn't go zoom anymore. She just sits there, so I'm not happy.
As long as Mallard goes zoom and then stops going zoom.
Yeah, at the right part of the timeline, then I'm happy. God damn it.
I'm not happy because Mallard is now sad.
It would be cool, though.
Introduce her to a member of the Hat family. They work miracles.
Yeah, really. Like that, it would kind of be cool if Mallard got rebuilt to like steam perfectly again. You'd have to replace like probably like more than half of her, but I feel like I don't know. I used to be really obsessive, like, oh, all the TV series models should all be behind glass. So all the real locomotives should be in a museum and never steam again. But like in the last few years, I've kind of developed a different philosophy where it's like, well, okay, if we thought that way about Skarloey and Rheneas, we'd want to beat up everyone who works at the Tallyclin Railway. We'd be like so mad, like, stop running that. But no, it's awesome. It's badass that those engines still run. It's so cool that Skarloey and Rheneas.
I'm kind of living in dread right now because Reading 3640 says, Rudy, I hate to tell you, but the Mallard ... Oh, and then Wooden Railway Edward just posted, Sir Loham Hat is the worst visitor.
We're also assuming that he doesn't live on the island. I don't know. I think that one's more likely, though. I don't get the feeling he does. I feel like he has some weird mansion somewhere else.
Now I'm trying to figure out which Fat Controller is he the twin of.
Yeah. I think
the only one I think could possibly fit into the timeline is the first one.
When in doubt, Charles, I want to say. However, that episode does only prominently feature like Thomas and Edward, I want to say. So that does kind of make sense that it would be the first. Sir Loham Hat. I mean, I guess also
or maybe Sir Loham Hat is Richard Hat's child, and there is another.
So that's the next Fat Controller. He's next in line. Of course. Yes. My God. Three Fat Controllers are like too similar to each other. We all treat them like they're just like, it's like, oh, this guy's the same as the last guy.
It's like he regenerates, but through birth instead of.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, he should be more like I mean, in Doctor Who, right? Like, the Doctor changes like drastically between iterations. And I feel like the Fat Controller should also, because he's not even like the same guy being reborn and regenerated. He's like just a new person. Like, he's not gonna act exactly like his father and his grandfather. He's gonna like look and sound and act differently.
It's the epitome of one of the worst tropes in casting is when they cast the same actor to play the son or the daughter of the main character.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's the worst thing. Like, yeah. Don't. And they did. Like, that's really what the Fat Controller is. Weird.
Except, really, it was just Audrey, like, rewriting his timeline and being like, oh shit, this guy's like over 100 years old. That's not realistic at all.
Yeah.
I need to write in a death in a child.
Exactly. Like, he wasn't really supposed to, he wasn't supposed to last this long. And then, especially because he didn't really think of his timeline too much until later. And then he was like,
if you think from the 40s to the 70s, that doesn't feel unrealistic.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, but then past then, it's like the problem is that then when it becomes the 20s are thrown in there, it's like, okay.
Yeah, because that would have been a 25-year period.
Yeah. And then that leaves us in this weird position where really what it was supposed to be from the start is you start in the 40s, and basically Charles is our fat controller. And then up until Enterprising Engines, and then maybe another one takes over. But you could, like, if you just look at every book taking place in the year that it was published, then it makes perfect sense. It's like, okay, there's one fat controller throughout all of these. But then you stretch it out, like, no, it doesn't make any sense now. You've got to twist things. And that's what Audrey did. It would be interesting if the different fat controllers actually reflected their eras better. Like if, the first fat controller is like wears a top hat, but then the second one doesn't. Because like, why would he really? Some people were wearing top hats that late, but not many. Like,
I feel like the top hat is too like iconic. Like I almost wonder. Ooh, I almost wonder if Charles doesn't actually like the top hat.
Yeah.
It's like, I've got to wear this thing.
Yeah, I could
The
see
image
that.
of the wear away.
It's like because it's kind of silly, and I feel like a lot of people would disrespect it. But it's part of the tradition. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would be willing to say that.
Oh, I feel so bad for poor Steven. I mean,
yeah, he's just like a clown. Like that's just absurd. Like at that point,
Steven is Loham Hat.
Oh my god. I hope not. Please. No.
Loham is just his nickname.
Like the thing is, like I do like the idea of Sir Loham Hat, but like he needs to like be put into context. Like I don't know what's up with him. Like who is he?
Though honestly, the whole Loham Hat thing actually worked with my idea for how Topham got his name. Because, if someone is cruel enough to name, one of their children Topham, then they also must be cruel enough to name that child's twin brother Loham.
That's like so mean. Why would you do that to your child? Why?
Because you're a drunkard gambler who has no standards?
Yeah, that's probably why. That's fair.
Oh, Redding called it. Loham Hat is the controller of Misty Island.
Not the controller of the Misty Island logging railway. The controller of Misty Island. That's a new form of government I haven't really heard about until now. Controllership. I feel like we're all a little too comfortable with the notion that the fat controller just kind of runs Sodor. Like, we kind of slip into that sometimes. We're like, he's in charge of the Northwestern Railway is what I was going to say. Like, that's like, we shouldn't ever make that mistake. We shouldn't ever be like, oh yeah, he's in charge of Sodor. Like, that's so concerning. How much power does this man have?
He just has such a silver tongue that he can convince any politician to do whatever he wants.
Oh my god, that might be true though. Like, Jesus Christ. Oh, Topham.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
Wooden Railway Edward. I'm surprised they didn't make Sir Topham Hatt a female in the new reboot.
I mean, we don't know that yet. The thing is, here's the thing. I don't really mind. I would be so down for them swapping genders on all the characters and just keeping the show the way it is. Like, if you need representation, just make Edward and Henry and James female. I don't care.
I mean, James being a female would work way too well.
I think it would all work.
So this is also being very stereotypical of me.
Yeah. Well, like, that's the thing.
But then again, it would be it would be a shame to lose such a gay icon.
Oh my god. Thanks to Alec Baldwin. But yeah, like that's the thing though, is like I feel like it would work with any character because any trait can be found in any gender. And so I feel like, it's interesting. We have a tendency to look at characters differently when the gender's swapped. Kind of like how Gordon and Emily are such similar characters when you think about it. If you look like new series
Emily is just Bendergent Gordon.
But like
I said Bendergent. I meant Bender Bent.
It was a lot better than you saying gender bent, I have to say. But I think it's just like they're very similar characters and they do a lot of the same things. But when we call Gordon arrogant or proud or pompous, we tend to call Emily bossy and naggy, and it's like, well, they're doing the same things, but we use different terms for some reason. And I think really
use more feminine terms for Emily.
Right. And I feel like that's something it would be nice if we could kick, because I think that Thomas is about trains, right? And it doesn't really matter, who, like, what gender a train is. That doesn't even mean anything to a train. Thomas doesn't know if he's male or female. He knows that he's an E2, right? Like that's what he's aware of. I look at the wiki and I see the thing on the, they've got the whole column of all the stats, right? Thomas's, class and his arrival date and his color, and then you've got gender. And it just doesn't fit with all the other stuff. It's like, yes, gender. When I go to the National Railway Museum and I look at the Flying Scotsman, I look at his builder's plate and it tells me his gender. Excellent. Like I don't care. It's a big, cool train, right? That's all I care about. And, I don't care if Scotsman was female, so be it. They're the same thing, right? So I wish the show could just do that. And they would never do that because people would be up in arms, but it would fix all their problems. All of a sudden, all the little girls would just be like, oh, okay, I can identify with Edward and Henry and whoever. It would be so much easier than just bringing in new characters that don't even share the same personalities. Like, you wipe everything out just because of the gender? That's a shame. That's a tragedy. Like, it doesn't impact anything. It goes back to the whole Mallard thing. It's like, is Mallard male or female? I don't know. She's both, depending on however you roll the dice.
Make Toby an old woman. He's even already wearing a skirt.
Imagine Toby with an enormous purse. That's wonderful. I love that notion. Just picture that. Jesus Christ. Hitting people with his enormous purse. Thomas is a dumbass, so she hits him with her enormous purse. That would keep him in line. Okay, I think we're getting pretty close on this decal actually being the right shape for the side of the sheds.
What dub did they change it to Alice? Asks Wooden Railway Edward.
I think.
What are you talking about? I
think he's talking about how in the early stage. I don't know if this is confirmed, but in the early stages of Thomas, they were thinking of, this is like back in 1984. They were thinking of changing Edward's gender to female because they wanted more representation, and then they didn't end up going with that, but they thought about making changing Edward's name to Alice and just making him female in all those stories, which I would have loved to see the conversation between Britt and Audrey where she's like, I'm thinking about making Edward female. That would have been a heated conversation.
And a whole new character. I was going to say, and a whole new character with a new name and everything.
Well, I mean, I think you can change.
Well, not a new character, but a new name.
Yeah, I mean, I think the name, like, I feel like if they, like, Audrey let them change Tidmouth to Knapford. If you let them do that, I feel like you would have let them, like, if they're like, Gordon would work better as a Gerald. We're going to call him that. Nobody is called Gordon anymore. Audrey would be like, well, I don't like it, but I suppose I will let you. And so they would do that. But I feel like he.
Well, then I wonder, did he actually have a say in any of that? Because I mean, they made changes to his stories in season 3, and he was mad at them. But it's not like he could do anything about it.
I feel like I think they had some respect for him though, where they like kind of tried to like. I don't think they ever just steamrolled him. I don't get the sense that Audrey stood up for himself quite in the way that he maybe should have. Like he shouldn't have given them the rights if he didn't want them to do
Right.
the show. Like
I guess his way of defending it would be like, fine, you don't have the rights to my stories, I'll take it to someone else. You know, like he did with every illustrator.
yeah, exactly. But you know, he was late in his life and probably needed the money, or you know, at least wanted to pass it on to his kids. Because it would have been foolish to just be like, no, I like my train stories the way they are, so Christopher is gonna have to, you know, lose his inheritance. Like
okay. Somehow, even though the fact that I passed a red signal, now it was only by like a few inches, but still, I somehow got a 5-star rating.
Wow, bravo! That's good. Engineering a new type of rail travel, one that exhibits much more recklessness.
Are we on Sodor right now? Is that how this works? Did I just blame it? Did I just blame it on a sleeping signalman? Is that what I did? I was like, oh yeah, it's supposed to be green, but Gerald was asleep.
We really do blame the signalman so much. It's not fair. It's really mean. They didn't ask. It can't always be the signalman's fault. Sometimes it's got to be a driver wanting to race Birdie or whatever. It's like there's got to be. It can't always be the signalman.
I mean, the TV series has established a precedent.
That's true.
Signalmen sleep on the job.
That is very true. I mean, I guess it would be very difficult to be a signalman, though. Can you imagine that? Just constant stress all day as you wait for like trains to come in. You have to like, you know, make sure that you're diverting them into the right places, and it's like really like a lot of pressure. Well, I don't blame the signalman. You know, if they want to fall asleep and let a few thousand people die in train crashes, I just don't see a huge problem with that.
Well, also, this also implies that like these guys are on the job almost 24/7.
Yeah, that's true. So like, when do they sleep? How many signal boxes are on Sodor? That's the question.
Fun fact, the only time a modern American freight car became airborne was in the Hinton train collision. Says Reading 3640 Studios.
Modern American train car. That's kind of scary because those are huge. That's God. What happened? To that
Airborne, not just off the rails. Airborne.
Like it was not on the ground anymore. Jesus Christ!
It was fighting gravity. Oh, and then Wood Railway Edward says hashtag sleep rights for signalmen.
Sleep rights. Yes.
Okay. Well, you're going to entertain the stream for a little bit while I go down and get another can of Sprite Zero. While also bring down my 5 empty cans that have started cluttering my desk.
I know how that is, but I'm that way with water bottles and not much else. Oh my God! All right, audience. Well, Dustin.
I'll even instead of giving them just a train's screen to look at. Here we shall reestablish. There, we'll go with that. Or maybe. Nope, I can't. I was gonna try and make it that it like focused on your stream, but I don't know how to do that. So
I'm not sure it can be done. I feel like you always have to be on the screen in some way. But yes, I'm here. Hello, hello, hello. Now I can't see what anyone's saying.
This is how ridiculous I am. Oh.
Oh my God! Brilliant. But anyhow, hello stream. I can't see any of your comments because I am in the playroom working on models, and all I can see is the StreamYard, but I can say things that you may find interesting. Like, let's recite build dates. Thomas, 1915. Edward, 1896. Henry, 1919. Gordon, we're not sure. That's a sore spot. Why'd you bring that up? Probably 1922, maybe 1921. Look, it may be his 100th. I'm not really sure. Look, I assume it's 1922. Therefore, I have some time so that we can celebrate his 100th properly next year. Because we missed Thomas's somehow. Like 2015 was such a big year for the community because we were like, oh, the Northwestern Railway is 100 years old, and oh, Solar's Legend of the Lost Treasure, and oh, the show's 75, or the brand is 75 years old. Nobody mentioned the fact that Thomas was 100 years old that year. Like, really? That's such a waste. That's such a tragedy that we missed that. We didn't jump on that. Like, Christ. Some people probably remembered. That was a big deal to me. No, I think I missed it too because I didn't realize until the year afterward. Because in 2015, I thought Thomas was built 1914, and then afterward, I was like, "Oh my God, he was built 1915." It was too late. So yeah, the most famous steam engine of all time, really the most famous train of all time, turned 100, and we missed it. Tragedy. It's a real tragedy. James, 1912. Percy, unknown. Everyone says around 1900. We have no clue. Let's not pretend. Toby.
There was food downstairs.
Ah, very good. If there was no food downstairs anywhere to be found, that would be concerning.
Wyatt, do not.
Aww. Toby, 1914. Duck, 1928, I think. Donald and Douglas, 1899. Oliver, 1934, I want to say. Duck and Oliver are a lot later than I realize. I've been reciting build dates to the audience, but I have no clue what they're saying. So how did they respond?
So what's the current conversation topic? I think we're just going to stay like this for a little bit while I eat.
Yes, I'm reciting engine build dates to the audience. So I got.
I actually have the main cast sort of lined out in order of build date right now. With blank spaces for Emily because she's downstairs. my little layout, and empty space for Murdoch because I do not own him.
Yeah. I think, what is Murdoch? I think he's sometime in the 50s or 60s.
Late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, it's up to the individual.
Depending on which version of a 9-act he is.
Yeah. That's true.
For a minute, I had a brain fart. Like, it is a 9F, right? I was like, oh no, it was like, because I was thinking of the 8Fs. I'm thinking like, I was getting really confused. I was like, oh no, it's the 8Fs that look eerily similar to Henry yet aren't.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you think about season 7. It introduced like 3 major famous British classes. It introduced an A4, a 9F, and a Sterling single, all in one season. Like, they really knew what their priorities were for introducing steam engines. You know, they didn't introduce like obscure
people. I'm eating pasta on my live stream. I'm doing that. I mean, hey, I haven't eaten. Let's see. The last thing I ate before going into class at 2 p.m. Know that for me it is currently 10 minutes before 10 o'clock. So the last thing I ate before starting at 2 o'clock was a bowl of Reese's Puffs and a bowl of chips. And before that, the only thing I'd eaten before that was a bowl of ramen noodles. So, I am starving.
I always thought that Reese's Puffs is like Reese and then apostrophe S, right?
Yes.
I always thought.
Well, it's either Reese's or Reese's, depending on who you ask.
Like I always thought it was like recess puffs, like at school. It's like recess. And I was like, oh, no, it's not. A few years ago. So that was my big revelation.
Yeah. I can't remember whether the Reese's thing is a Pennsylvania Dutch thing or not. Because if you live in Pennsylvania, you say things different. Some people say crayons. We say crayons.
Crayons. Yeah, I mean, that's not. I mean, that rolls off the tongue more nicely. Crayons. 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 Crayons.
But most people, they can do the crayons very nicely. It's not like it rolls off the tongue. It's not like it's difficult to roll off the tongue.
That's true. But it's also unnecessarily complicated when there's no other words that really fall into that in camp.
Well, depending on how you say it, it can sound awfully similar to cranes.
Crayons. True. Alright, I think once I finish this side of the shed decals,
we also say batteries instead of batteries.
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 My battery, Spencer. My battery is running out. Spencer. My battery. What if Stafford's
I can say my batteries run low. I literally have a battery attached to me with my insulin pump.
True. Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Battery.
If Batman lived in Pennsylvania, people would be so confused. It's like, wait, you talking about batteries? Or like an actual bat tree?
Batteries. Batteries.
I ate a bat tree.
That's where I'll sit and do my detective work. Master Bruce, get down from there.
No, Alfred. I must stay in my battery.
Until the case is solved. That's so tough.
I must think like a bat. Hanging upside down in my battery.
Oh my god.
Oh, what other words do Pennsylvanians say weird?
I was talking to I think it was Miles I was talking to, and he said I say most people say how do you pronounce this, Dustin? How do you say SURE, that word?
Right. SURE?
Yes.
Sure?
Sure. All right. So you say sure. I say shore for some reason. Like a beach.
I mean, I've heard it people say that way too, or maybe it's you that I've heard it say that way, and now I'm like, yeah, people say it that way all the time.
Yes, I've just deluded you into thinking that's how normal people speak.
Good old Mandela effect.
Yeah. What's something that is really Mandela effecty in Thomas? Also, I gotta go in probably like 5 or 10 minutes. But I'll be here till then.
All right, then maybe that's just what we'll do. We'll stay on until you have to leave, and then we'll wrap up the stream. All nice, like it's a bit shorter than Monday's stream, but I mean we're gonna have these twice a week, so we're not trying to break any records here. I already did that once.
I mean, you left me in a real moral dilemma where I have to decide: do I break your record, or do I think about the good of the community and stop this arms race so that nobody keeps doing the Lemmy challenge?
So, Wooden Railway Edwards. The pronunciation of the terminus station for Duck's Branch Line. Me and my mom had a heated debate about this, but we asked an actual British person, and she said Arlesburg. And then we asked her to say how she would say it if she was living back in Britain, and then she said Arlesborough.
So that solves it. Like that's the thing is like, I feel like you should just pronounce something the way that it's pronounced in its country of origin. Like, if it's, because that's the name, right? It's kind of like how, like I was talking about this with my sister the other day. It's weird that like with like we have names for countries that the country doesn't use, like Germany. I don't think Germans call it Germany. I think they call it like Deutschland or something. Like it's got some other name that you use in Germany. So where did we get Germany from? Like where did that come from? It's just bizarre. You'd think we'd use the original name, and that goes for Orlsborough as well. And also there's the fact that like say this is something I've gone back and forth on, and so I'm very awkward whenever I try to say this name now. Is the Tallyclin Railway? Like we can say it the way that the Welsh say it. Like I think they go Tallyclin. It's like Tallyclin, something like that, right? I always said Tallylin my whole life, but really it's supposed to be Tallyclin, where you like have a kind of a. But I feel like Tallyclin sounds more Yiddish than it does Welsh. So I'm not sure I'm doing that right either. It's like Tallyclin, like Tally Flynn. I've heard Tally Flynn. I've heard Tallyclin. The thing is, it sounds so natural when somebody says it in the right dialect, where they're like Tallyclin. Like it's just like the Tallyclin Railway.
So the natural pronunciation from the Welsh is Tallyflin.
I think the natural pronunciation is Tallyclin. That's what I've heard from people who actually work at the railway. It's like Tallyclin. Like it's kind of like a
PHE sort of sound.
Yeah, it's like kind of it's like a KH. It's like it's very specific. Tallyclin. I don't know. I don't know how to do it. But like I'm sure we can if we just knew, right? It would just take 30 seconds with somebody who actually knows how to pronounce it, and I'd be like Tallyclin, and they're like, no, Tallyclin. Tallyclin? No, Tallyclin. Tallyclin. Yeah, that's right, Tallyclin. Okay, thank you. And then we just figured it out right there. We just need to do a pronunciation stream. I just need to do a stream where I bring on people from different parts of Britain, and I'm like, please, okay, here's a list of things. Tell me how to say them. I've tried to say them my whole life. I've been totally unsuccessful. Help me. And then they just do that. And then all of a sudden I just know. That would be great. That needs to happen. That's got to happen. I remember, I think it was Will Thomas 199 corrected me on something at some point. And that was helpful. I was like, oh, thank you. That's answered how that works. I've since forgotten the correction, so I'm going to have another conversation with him. But, it's the thought that counts.
Now, how do we pronounce Farquhar or Farquhar?
That's a pretty obvious one. I'm almost certain that was just Alec Baldwin being a douchebag. Like, really, what word in the entire English language, when you see two letters next to each other, do you pronounce both of them? It's like not.
What other language has two of the same consonant letter starting the word?
I guess starting the word. I feel like. I mean, I feel like you see that in Welsh a lot.
Okay, well, Alec Baldwin is American.
Okay, that's true.
He literally grew up in probably one of the worst first world education systems. We gotta cut him some slack.
Okay, I'll cut him a little bit of slack, but not that much. I feel like there's no Farquhar. There's no A in between. Where's the coming from? Farquhar. Maybe it's Farquhar. Like it's like an elongated F sound, but not
Right.
Farquhar. I don't believe it. I refuse to.
It just means that you're supposed to rest on the F for a little bit. Like someone was about to say fucking Farquhar, and they were like, no.
Farquhar. I do think it's just a silent F. There's just two F's for some reason. Farquhar. Almost like maybe initially in the
Farquhar? Farquhar?
Farquhar.
Hey, that's a brand new station.
There we go. Inventing new stations with mispronunciations. That sounds like a rap beat right there. Creating new stations with mispronunciations. But yeah, so Mandela effect. What's the most Mandela effect you think in Thomas?
I don't know about like just throughout all of Thomas, but from my experience, I can remember watching both James Learns a Lesson and the episode after that, both as like my first episode. I can't figure out which one was actually my first episode.
That's weird. I have no clue what my first episode was. I feel like it could have been maybe Pop Goes the Diesel. But
it wasn't even in I know James Learns a Lesson is my first episode because it's the first one on the VHS tape.
Right. Couldn't have gotten to the other one without getting to that.
But at the same time, I can almost clearly remember that image being my first.
Yeah, so it's your strong guttural feeling conflicting with the whole thing. That's weird.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because I remembered that image of Tidmouth in the night a lot because it felt like Tidmouth was inside a building. I didn't put it together at the time. Back when I was 4, I could have sworn Tidmouth Sheds was inside a bigger building in that scene. And I didn't even connect it as being Tidmouth Sheds. I just thought we were looking inside a building.
I mean, I technically it is inside a bigger building, but we're not supposed to think about that. So no, it's not.
Oh God. I figured it out before I figured it out.
You cracked it. Inception. Train Inception. But I would say, I think for me, the Mandela effect really strikes. Look, I'll put this out here right now, is that technically the Mandela effect is when thousands of people, hallucinate the exact same thing. I get it. Okay. I got lectured by Ted on that once, and I'll never not give that disclaimer. And I've always been aware that that's the way that it works. However, even though that is the case, I feel like it is a useful shorthand for kind of the feeling of something that you clearly remember one way becoming different, and nobody seems to there's no evidence of it having been the other way. I think the biggest thing for me is the designs of the characters. Usually it's thinking that boiler bands are somewhere and then they're not. Look at James in season 1. I'm pretty sure he only has 2 boiler bands. Up against the firebox, there isn't one. And look at Edward in between the smoke box and the boiler.
It always. I almost thought that every character had more stripes than what they actually did.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's because you kind of assume that the places where like the boiler starts and ends, you always assume there's going to be boiler bands there, and then there aren't, and you're like, what
Well,
the hell? So
well, not even that, but like, I look at the wooden railway models.
yeah,
My Gordon's painted now, so I no longer have a prime example.
Right.
But like, he has like 4 stripes on him, I think. But like, 2 of those stripes, I guess, are technically supposed to be up against the smoke box and the firebox,
yeah.
respectively.
It's
But
really it's weird.
they aren't on the model.
It's weird how the new style ones. I always like the old style, and I always like the CGI, but like the new style era was always weird to me, and that's the biggest reason is because the boiler bands are in the wrong places. It's like, it's kind of like what is it?
I always preferred it because I kind of liked the look of more boiler bands. Like when I got the CGI model, I was like, "What's wrong with this?" And it's like, "Oh, this is the problem. It doesn't feel like it has enough stripes. He's not
Yeah,
stripy
and
enough."
I think part of that though is like the implied stripes, right? Is that the new style one, you kind of, there's a line that's implied between the black and the blue, and so there's kind of like, it feels like, whereas for me, I look at it and I think like, okay, well, it's got the same number of stripes on the new style. It's just that you've now put them in the right places. So now you've got one separating the smoke box and
Yeah.
boiler.
I
It's like,
never paid attention to it, especially since the fact that I wasn't thinking that the stripes were actual band. Well, in the TV show they weren't, but I definitely wasn't thinking in like the real world concept where those stripes aren't just stripes painted on just for decorative reasons. They are
yeah,
actual bands around the boiler.
yeah. And to be fair, sometimes they're painted on. I mean, but unlike Scotsman, they are a physical component. And it's like, it's interesting how a lot of that, the time that can be implied. Like I think,
So, and it's because of that discrepancy that I felt like, well, if you're gonna have stripes, like be stripy. Like
yeah,
this is not enough stripes to justify being stripes.
yeah.
Like,
I guess I always liked fewer stripes. Now you've got me calling them stripes. Look what you've done. But like, I've like say with like I always liked how I took note of stuff like that. Like watching the show, I liked how Gordon only had like 4 boiler bands. I thought that looked classier than having like a lot of them. Because the more boiler bands an engine had, it kind of made the boiler look more caterpillar.
I should like clarify that I don't mean like have all the stripes. I kind of mean like it felt too spaced out to be intentional. But that's the
Right.
thing. It's not like we're doing stripes for the sake of stripes. It's these boiler bands are a different color.
Yeah. But even if they were stripes, and for a long time I didn't realize they were really boiler bands either. I didn't use that term. I don't know. I like the space, because I kind of look at it like, I guess I don't like markings on the engine that don't indicate something that's already there. Like the reason I like the like stripes on, like I like boiler bands on say Gordon is because it indicates where the smoke box ends and the boiler begins. It indicates where the firebox starts, and then it's got stripes in between too. So those are kind of not indicating too much, but they're kind of like when you look at a 3D model that
But
doesn't
I think it would look really weird if he only had a stripe at his smoke box and at his firebox.
he would look like he'd look like Rheneas or something. Like it would be. I mean, that's kind of the way that those engines are lined. But I do think it's kind of, they draw your eye.
It somehow works on Rheneas. I go and say like, I don't think that would work on Gordon, but then I say like, oh, it's fine on Rheneas.
Because he's so small is the thing. Like if he was a lot bigger, like you kind of, the bigger a boiler is, I think the more stripes it needs in order to kind of look natural.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, the thing is, the longer it is, the easier it is to forget that it's curved. And what it does to put stripes on an engine's boiler, I think it kind of makes the curvature very obvious. It's kind of like when you're making a 3D model and you've got like kind of a grid on it and it kind of like curves and that shows you like where all the curvature is. I feel like that's why Gordon's stripes are such a good idea, is because they really indicate like that it's curved in the middle as well. And especially when you've got a taper going, all of a sudden those circles get bigger and bigger, and you're like, oh, it's tapering out. It's like, and it really makes like a clear, it tells you something about the shape, and I like that. Same thing with like the handrails almost. They either follow the shape with the taper, or they remain straight and make the taper more obvious. So it's stuff like that, details like that like really emphasize the shape. I really like those. And so when something doesn't emphasize the shape, right? If you've got the boiler bands just kind of floating in the center, like it doesn't feel as intertwined with the engine to me. It kind of feels like you took a texture that was meant for like James and you put it on Gordon. Like that's kind of the vibe I get off of like the new style engines. But I can see the other perspective too, where they do feel stripier. They feel like the stripes are a lot more obvious. You can miss them on the CGI models, but on the new style engines, they're like right there. They're a clear component. You don't miss them. So like there's two different camps of thought. I can see both. Like they definitely both make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the one thing that I actually wanted to mention is, since I now have this 3D printer coming, I'm probably going to design an Emily from scratch.
Oh, that's cool.
Since, I mean, we can all universally agree that Wooden Railway Emily is kind of shit.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to find a word other than no bueno, because that's not very on brand for me. But it's she's not good. No.
I know, like, other modifications I'm thinking of doing. I'm thinking of like literally printing out little splashers to like fasten on top of the running board.
Yeah.
So of several characters, like Edward. I feel like he needs.
Oh, you mean like beyond just Emily? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, you could have, you could apply that to a lot of different characters then.
Yeah, because Edward, like, his splashers are so important to his design, I feel.
Yeah, they're a lot more obvious on him. Like on Gordon, you can easily get rid of them because they're just so subtle.
Yeah.
And they like.
I think I'm going to keep them on Gordon to help contrast with Henry.
Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, because I almost feel like the weaker an engine is, the bigger its splashers get, if that makes sense. Like I feel like a symbol of strength is to have a running board that's up so high that it doesn't even need splashers. Like Gordon's.
So also, I feel like Gordon is more speedy than he is strong. I mean, he's definitely really strong, but Black 5 Henry, I think is definitely like, he's like the beefcake.
If you're talking about Henry as a Black 5, then yeah, he should look stronger than Gordon.
Yeah. And as far as like old style or old shape Henry, he's using. I mean, I have him work in progress right here. I mean, he's using the very thin boiler, so I feel like there you get the.
True. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Like.
Yeah. So that's going to be the idea, is that I'm just going to like print out a whole bunch of generic flashers and just glue them onto a bunch of engines.
Yeah, now that's cool. That's going to give a pretty distinct look. I like that. Solid plan. I give it a solid 10 out of 10 for good splashers.
So yeah, I might be looking for your assistance in 3D modeling in near future.
I'd be happy to help, of course, Dustin. Indeed.
Especially with Emily, because that's basically just all curves.
Yeah. No, it is, but she's actually a lot simpler than you might think. Because, like, say someone I'll contrast her with someone like Spencer. Spencer's really complicated because it's a bunch of curves that all need to converge with each other. Whereas Emily is quite different because she may be all curves, but they're all curves that kind of just run into each other. You've got a boiler that cuts through like
all of the intersections are with straight lines.
Exactly, yeah. Like her splashers are basically just a half cylinder that cuts in perpendicular to her boiler, which is a full cylinder. So like she'll be easier than she sounds also. So that'll be pretty good.
Yeah.
I forget if I've shown anyone my Emily. I really want to get to the point where I can show off all the cool stuff I've made. I've made just so much TV series stuff that nobody's seen. I really just want to make something with it. I was writing a story a while back that I want to go back to. That's really good. And Tidmouth. I'm doing all the Tidmouth stuff, so that's pretty cool as well. So yeah, I can't wait until I actually get moving with this. Get moving, you. All right, I think that's my Tidmouth work done for the day.
All right. Well, so if you're gonna head out, then I guess we'll just end the stream here for tonight. Nice 2-hour, 5-minute stream. It's a decent stream.
Yeah, pretty solid. I mean,
if we're doing twice a week, that's a pretty good stream. So,
I know we're wrapping up, but I did have an idea. It would be cool, Dustin, if rather than me beating your stream record, what if we both beat it together? So we both did a stream that lasted like 17 hours. That would be pretty good.
Well, it would have to be over 17 hours.
Oh yeah.
Because I think when I ended it on StreamYard, it was at 17, but on YouTube it was like 16:59 something.
I hate that. That sucks. Like, why? It's robbing you of the grand, smooth final number. All right, so 17 hours and 1 minute there. But yeah. So anyway,
and then it will show up on YouTube as 17 hours.
Oh my god. Yeah, that will slowly inch forward like that. That's every victor will get just a minute ahead, second ahead.
We'll have to wait until spring break though, because I'm not sure I can handle that.
We should not do it in general. Let me be clear about that. But if we've got to do it, it should be at a responsible time where it won't destroy your schedule and therefore life.
After either during spring break or after finals.
Yeah. Well, yes, indeed. That sounds.
I know. If Shining Time actually happens this year, we'll just do it at Shining Time.
Oh my god, that's insane. Imagine that. We'd ruin the whole thing just by being sleep deprived the entire time. It would have to be at the very end, and then we'd miss our flights. You wouldn't. You'd have no problem. But I would miss my flight.
Sleep in the van and then drive home the next day.
Yeah, I just have to live with you from then on. It would be all over. There's no going back to California after that. It's just shot. Like I can't go home. Not after that. But anyway, so I've got to go to dinner, and we've got to end this stream. But this has been a lot of fun for sure. I gotta attend more of these because I do quite enjoy it.
Yeah. We'll have you back another time.
Very good. Very good. Or I blew my one chance. Next time you'll have some other guest on here, and this is my one chance to be on here. Tragically.
Wooden Railway Edward asks, "Does Lemmy even school anymore?"
No, I don't. There's no good answer to what I do right now. I don't work and I don't go to school. I'm in this limbo in my life where I just sit in here in this gray void. Outside, beyond the sky is just a gray void that I live in. And I don't do anything except work on Tidmouth. That's basically my entire existence in life. And I talk to Dustin sometimes. That's about it. I make character gallery occasionally. That's my world. But no, I'm not really doing much. I'm your average slacker. Let's put me that way. That'll make me sound lovable. But yeah, here's your answer. Oh god, these brushes are gonna need a thorough cleaning. I paint something, then talk for 20 minutes, and then paint again. So now they're just absolutely caked in paint. I'm gonna trust them that they haven't destroyed themselves. I've got backups if I need them.
All right then. Well, that seems like the perfect note to end off on.
Yes, I would say so.
thanks for coming to the stream, everybody. We'll assumably, I'll assumably be back on Monday, unless something happens. You know, these are not given, but a hopefully given.
Yeah. Do not promise your audience anything. That's what I've learned. And you've perhaps learned it long before I did, even, Dustin. We've both learned this. We've learned it in space.
I've learned to give soft promises, not full promises, soft promises.
That's true. I suppose I've learned that as well. It was a good way to put it.
Yes, Redding. It's time for all of us to go home. Just like Thomas.
Yes, indeed.
Bye, everyone.
See you.